Welcome to Issues That Matter. I'm Cynthia Pooler, and I've got my friend today, Scott Ritter, and we're going to talk about the showdown in the White House plus the State of the Union speech. Well, since the showdown came first, let's start a conversation with that. What's your opinion of everything that went out on last Friday?
I wouldn't call it a showdown. I'd call it an ambush. The showdown implies basically a confrontation between equals. Um, this was an ambush where a petulant child was punished by a dominant and a disciplinary parent. Um, Zelensky has been behaving abysmally, both as a leader of Ukraine and as a partner for peace. He is a corrupt individual who has created a system that can only survive with the continuation of a conflict, and the system is designed to enrich him and um, his corrupt cronies. And as a result, he's incapable of engaging in good faith dialogue about bringing it into the war, because bringing it into the war is the last thing he wants. So he has lied to the United States. He has committed to certain courses of action and withdrawn. Um, and he was brought into the White House to be punished. This was a pre-planned ambush designed to humiliate the Ukrainian president and to begin a process that will ultimately lead to the elimination of Zelensky as the leader of Ukraine, to be replaced by somebody who wants peace. But this wasn't a showdown. This was this was a thrashing.
Okay, but according to what I saw and uh different comments about it, it was pretty cordial up until Zelensky started saying the wrong things. I mean,
It was never cordial. I've seen lions play with little baby antelopes before they eat them. Are we saying that the interaction between the lion and the antelope was cordial? No, the lion was always the predator and the antelope was always the prey. This was a setup from the very start. There was nothing cordial about it. It was always going to end in a humiliation for Volodymyr Zelensky.
has there ever been a dignitary um escorted out of the White House before?
Not to my knowledge, but I don't have a comprehensive, I can't claim to have comprehensive knowledge of everything that takes place and has taken place in the White House in the previous administrations. But from my understanding, this was a very unprecedented move. But again, it was designed to be. It was designed to humiliate Zelensky, to destroy his credibility as a leader.
Were you surprised?
I was surprised Zelensky went to the White House, because there was no doubt in my mind this was going to happen. It had to happen. I don't know why people are shocked by this. In the week leading up to this meeting, Zelensky was being openly chastised by J.D. Vance, the Vice President of the United States, who told him to stop bad mouthing the President of the United States.
Mhm.
Um, so, and Zelensky didn't. So, of course, this was going to happen. And again, it had all the trappings of a setup. If you think that the question asked by the reporter about do you own a suit was spontaneous, that reporter was fed that question and told that he could ask that question only if cleared by the White House. Do you think J.D. Vance interjected what he did in a spontaneous moment of dialogue between Ukraine? No, this was a pre-planned statement, and the president would give him the signal, then J.D. Vance would intervene and say what he said to humiliate Zelensky. The president knew what he was doing. They knew what the Ukrainian position was. They knew the Ukrainians weren't going to sign the mineral deal, that this was all a setup. This was designed to lure Zelensky in, get him into a situation, and then in front of the entire world, destroy him.
And he fell for it.
He's an idiot. He's a cocaine addict who's desperate for money.
Mm.
Oh,
Now,
no, I mean, it's time we have to call a spade here.
right.
This isn't about throwing out ad hominem attacks and all that stuff. The man is a cocaine addict. We've known this from the moment he ran for president. We knew that when he was a comedian in Ukraine. He is a well-known addict to cocaine. And since he's been president and since this war has come, his addiction has grown even greater. And it physically manifests itself repeatedly. Are you pretending that you didn't see what you saw? You didn't see the man sniffing and snorting and twitching and his eyes dilated, and he's just, the man is a cocaine addict. He's a drug addict. He's out of control. And we need to call it what it is. He's not a responsible leader. And this is a man who is the leader of a nation who we just have admitted publicly is a proxy for a war between the United States and Russia. Let me say that again, just so your audience understands. We are at war with Russia. The United States is. We have finally admitted it. It's a proxy war using Ukraine, but it's a war nonetheless, one that if it's not terminated quickly will lead to the inevitable exchange of nuclear weapons between the United States and Russia. And we're putting our faith and trust into a cocaine addict. We have to call it what it is. Have to call it what it is.
So you think his days are numbered as president, right?
Of course they are.
Okay. So let's go on to the State of the Union. What you think?
One of the most boring speeches I've ever listened to. It was a nothing burger. It was President Trump bragging about his accomplishments, but putting, there was a lot of anticipation that he was going to come out there and say things that would change the nature of America's diplomatic interaction with the world. Big things are coming. Nothing came out of that. There was nothing new from that presentation. It was just one giant nothing burger. President Trump went up there and was his own best cheerleader, but we didn't get any major policy announcements out of that. We didn't get anything other than him claiming to have accomplished more in 2 months than any other president has accomplished in their entire term of office, which may be true, may not be true. But no, it was one of the most useless speeches I've heard, and it was deliberately contentious, which might be part of the plan, to keep the Democrats on the run. But from a foreign policy or national security perspective, nothing new came out of this side.
So what did you think about the Democratic reaction?
I think that's one of the reasons why Trump had this speech, is to allow America to see the reality of the Democratic Party, a totally leaderless mob of ill-disciplined people who can't even cheer good news happening for a child with terminal brain cancer.
Right.
The Democrats are gone. They're finished. They're done. And that might be one of the things that Trump was trying to accomplish through this speech.
So you think by the next election, the Democrats will be less liked than they are right now?
It's very difficult to always predict the future. It's possible that Donald Trump can fail and collapse, and the MAGA movement will be exposed as a corrupt entity that fooled everybody. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Democrats are being exposed as a corrupt entity that has stolen from people over the decades and accomplished nothing for it except enriching themselves. And I think the absolute lack of leadership that's coming out of the Democratic Party ensures that their downfall will continue at a very rapid trajectory. Normally, one would expect to see the opposition party make a run at relevance in a midterm election. Generally speaking, the population becomes sort of jaded over, unfulfilled promises and unmet expectations on the part of the party that's in office. I think we're going to see this time that Donald Trump is going to be delivering on almost every promise that he made, and that the Democrats have nothing to offer in opposition. And I actually think the Republicans, the MAGA, will become even more deeply entrenched in the coming elections. But that's, you know, it's a long way away. We just had the one election, so
Trump has only been president for like 6 or 7 weeks. Do you think he's accomplished more in those 7 weeks than maybe a Democrat would accomplish in a few years?
he's accomplished more in these weeks than any president, Republican or Democrat, has accomplished in a similar time frame in the history of modern presidency. And normally, as I've said many times, the kind of fundamental changes that Donald Trump is seeking to achieve are policy initiatives that are reserved for the final stages of the last term of a president, meaning that they can only have the political courage to do this when there are no potential repercussions. They're not able to be reelected. Donald Trump is accomplishing this right at the very front. He's fearless, not worried about midterm elections, and he understands the stakes that he has 4 years to turn America around so that he can pass the reins off to a MAGA successor to continue what he has started. I think we're looking at a president who is redefining what American politics is all about. He is singularly focused on doing the right thing for America, as opposed to being seen as doing the right thing for America to promote his personal political ambition.
What do you think of all the hatred directed towards Musk?
Elon Musk is the tool that Donald Trump is using to tear down the deep state. Now, we've spoken about the deep state, the blob, the unelected establishment, however you want to call it, in the past. And I know that when I speak about it, I'm dead serious. This is a reality. It exists. I've said it's been corrupt from the day one. So if what I said is true, why are you surprised that the deep state is screaming the loudest when Elon Musk is starting to dismantle it? Because that's what's happening here. Elon Musk is dismantling the deep state. So they're going to be crying, they're going to be screaming, but basically these are the drowning survivors of the Titanic in the ice cold North Atlantic, and their screams will slowly be silenced as they slip beneath the water because they have lost and it's over for them.
Back in the early 90s, when Clinton became president, him and Al Gore were hell bent on budget cutting back then. There was no outcry then as there is now.
Because they weren't hell bent on budget cutting. They were hell bent on being seen as budget cutting while they further, reinforced the deep state. Clinton was a product of the deep state. You need to understand this. Every American president prior to Donald Trump was a product of the deep state, selected by the establishment to represent the establishment for the benefit of the establishment. What Clinton and Gore were doing was superficial. It didn't have any meaning, long lasting. It wasn't meant to change the way America worked. It was meant to make a political statement that was as superficial as the day is long.
So what does the American people have to look forward to over the next few months?
More of the same.
Okay.
Donald Trump is going to keep his, the pedal to the metal. He's seeking fundamental change. It doesn't happen overnight. And he understands that if he lets up even a little bit, then the deep state has a chance to re-entrench and become a problem. He can't give them breathing room. He has initiated, the domestic political version of maneuver warfare. The OODA loop, John Boyd's classic, concepts applied to air-to-air engagements. It's been used by military people to describe maneuver warfare. It's been used by business leaders. You want to get in the decision-making cycle of your enemy. That means that they are reacting to your actions. So your first thing to do is take an action. And then while they're reacting to it, before they've adjusted to it, you act again. And so that they're always responding to your actions, and therefore you are in control of the trajectory and the momentum and the direction. And I think that's what Donald Trump's going to be doing for the next 4 years, because it's going to take an awful lot to kill the deep state. But he's in the process of killing it. So Americans don't expect to wake up some morning and not have news. Every morning is going to be about the war that's taking place between the Trump administration and the deep state.
What's your feelings on Greenland?
What are my personal feelings? It's a
Yeah.
sovereign state, and the United States has no business trying to impose its will on Greenland. I mean, it's just, it's absurd in the extreme. Problem is, Donald Trump doesn't share my opinion towards how the United States should be interfacing with the rest of the world. He is aggressively trying to remake the world. In Greenland, being under American control is an important part of that. So I think that Donald Trump is going to aggressively move to make Greenland a U.S. territory.
Now you have a new podcast. How's that going?
The Russia House with Scott Ritter. I mean, it's slow going. It's tough because it's a, a product that involves interviewing Russians, Russian topics. So we've got to build an audience, and we're working on building an audience. It's high quality work. We put out some very interesting interviews. I mean, we're in the process of putting out more. The articles that accompany the interviews are like some of the finest writing I've ever done. So I'm pleased with it. But it's a subscription based service. So it's tough to get people to buy into to something. But as I said, we're slowly building a following, and I'm very happy with the product, and I'm hopeful that over time this will be accessible to a very broad audience, because one of its missions is to inoculate the American people against the Russophobia that the government has sought to infect us with.
It's even worse than it ever has been before.
I
My
think
feeling.
I think so. But I think people have become accustomed to not to be offensive to anybody, but to a free ride. Meaning that they can come on and watch podcasts, and they don't have to pay anything, and they get the benefit of people's intellectual property, and the labors that are associated with putting podcasts together, the time, etc. And for the Russia House, frankly speaking, the overhead is just it's too expensive to give away for free because it's going to go bankrupt. So it has to be a subscription based service. But it's tough to get people to realize that if you want to have access to alternatives to mainstream media, that these alternatives, they don't come without cost to the people that are preparing them. And at some point in time, it's up to the audience to enable this product to be made, which means you have to either donate or subscribe.
Okay. So how's the situation with your passport?
It's a work in progress. We have a new administration that's said all the right things. Now we're waiting for them to take action. I've sent a formal letter to Attorney General Pam Bondi requesting that the whatever prompted the FBI to come into my house be terminated. And if the seizure of my passport was related to that, and I believe it was, then the passport should be returned to me. But if not, then I need to be told why my passport was seized and what needs to happen for me to restore my constitutional right to be able to travel.
So what's your prognosis for the next few months?
Chaos, anarchy, violence.
You think so?
I know so. It's happening right now. The war in Ukraine is not going to stop anytime soon. Um, the Middle East is teetering on the brink of a conflict. Hopefully Trump can prevent that, but there's just going to be there's a lot of uncertainty out there until you know the vision of peace that Donald Trump has can manifest itself into reality. Uh, we're talking about transitions and transformations that are on a scale that's unprecedented in modern history, and it's not going to happen quietly or behind the scenes. It's going to happen very loudly in our front. So this is good news for you and I, because this creates job security, because there's going to be a lot to talk about.
Do you think Trump still has a target on his back?
Sure. Well, let's answer it this way. Do we know who's responsible for the assassination attempt in Butler?
No, we don't.
And do we know who's responsible for the assassination attempt in Florida?
No, we don't.
So as long as we don't know, we have to assume that those responsible for seeking to kill the president are still out there. And therefore, if they wanted to kill the president, I believe that means that they still want to kill the president, and that there's a target on the president's back. But there's also a target on my head, Tucker Carlson's head, Tulsi Gabbard's head, Ryan Paul's head, and dozens of Americans who continue to be placed on hit lists and blacklists and assassination lists by the Ukrainian government, using U.S. taxpayer money to facilitate this. So, and now we're being told that the Ukrainian diaspora, that means the Ukrainian Americans here, including those in Ellenville, the Banderists, we're being told by the Ukrainian military that they're going to mobilize the diaspora to commit acts of terror here at home. So we all have targets on our back. The Ukrainians are not our friends. They're not our allies. They are our enemies, our existential enemies. And they only care about Ukraine. They don't care about the United States. And I'm very concerned that at some point or another, we're going to see, radical behavior coming from the Ukrainian American diaspora.
When somebody who doesn't like Trump and says they stand with Ukraine, is that playing right into the Ukrainian government's hands?
Of course it is. What you're doing is you're taking you're legitimizing the actions of the Ukrainian government by trying to put some sort of moral equivalency on there, that this is about democracy, this is about freedom, this is about things that shared values with the United States. There's nothing democratic about Ukraine. They don't believe in freedom. It's a military dictatorship, which is influenced by a white supremacist ultranationalist movement that has murdered tens of thousands of Jews, hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians, hundreds of thousands of Russians, and continues to murder people to this day, and is putting Americans on the death list.
Wow. So final thoughts.
Like I said, I think we're in for a very bumpy ride in the days, weeks, and months ahead. I believe that the direction of the ride, that the trajectory are both to the benefit of peace, meaning that we're not oriented towards a war with Russia, but away from a war with Russia, and that the ultimate outcome, is meant to create stability, not only in the United States and Europe, but around the world. So I think this is a good trajectory and a good outcome. And I think that Trump is serious about navigating us to that path, but it's going to be a very interesting ride.
It sure will be. It not only does it keep you and I talking, but also all the pundits on the mainstream media.
Well, it allows CNN and MSNBC and NBC and CBS and ABC just to further dig their own collective graves, showing how utterly corrupt they are, and how they pursue a deep state agenda. We can't say a government agenda anymore, because the government, of course, is taking a separate track, but a deep state agenda, and that it should make all Americans more grateful for alternative media sources like yourself and others who are out there doing their best to tell the truth.
Well, Scott, this is a conversation that will be continued. Any final words?
No, just good luck. Keep doing what you're doing. My understanding, I don't know if it's premature, but you have a project yourself, and
Yeah.
I want to wish you the very best. It's a project that's related to democracy and the things that have to happen if we're going to fix that which we all agree is broken. So I hope someday to be able to call you Madam Mayor.
No, 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 I don't think so. I'm working on a bigger project than that.
Oh, bigger project, Madam Governor,
No, no.
Madam President.
So we will continue our conversation. Scott, it's been a great pleasure talking with you. Thank you everybody for listening. And if you like this show, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thanks, Scott. Thank you everybody. Have a great day.